Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to Allotment of the Dead. So I've just spent probably about 45 minutes or so hand weeding the polytunnel here, basically with these small little annual weeds which tend to creep around a bit. They potentially can be quite a mess in here if they get left to get out of control, and they do tend to go to flower and seed quite quickly as well. So it is quite important to get around and do some weeding. The thing is, in a polytunnel, when I've planted them this close together, the good thing about planting things further apart is that you can get in there with a hoe. Makes life a little bit easier. You break the roots, and then you're able to do it in effect quite a bit more quickly. But I've not really done that in here. I've planted them really quite close together. They are looking absolutely fantastic in terms of the actual the way that these chilies are looking. They're doing really well. They are, to some extent, some of them are quite small still. I think that was partly because I probably brought them down quite early on. They are just starting to find their feet now, and they're growing really quite well. Some of them, I'll show you shortly, have gone already to flower. They're already in effect trying to make those lovely chili pods that we absolutely love eating. So hopefully we should have some quite good produce. I am hoping to get some of these to get a little bit bigger as well before they actually start putting out their pods. Unfortunately, you don't always get what you want though, so there is going to be some issues potentially in here in terms of growing some of these particular plants. I'll show you a couple of the issues we've got at the moment. Okay, so one of the first issues is that not all of the weeds that are here are annuals. Some of them are perennials, and some of them are really quite long-lasting, archaic. In effect, there's some of these weeds have been here probably longer than the dinosaurs. I'll show you kind of what we're looking at. Okay, so these here are just your normal kind of annual weeds. They creep along the ground. They've got these nice long roots. They actually put out multiple tendrils from these. So it almost grows a little bit like a bindweed, but not quite. It's not quite sure what this one is called, but I'm sure I'll be able to find out at some point. But these are relatively simple to get rid of. If you cut the root, then generally the plant will die. The one that we don't have quite so much luck with is this fella here. So I've pulled this one out, and you can see the really long root on it here. But you can also see here, I've actually split. Hopefully you can see there. That's not come out intact. So that's actually left probably a really bit of fine root in the ground. So this here is the horsetail. So this isn't to be confused with the aquatic version, which is called mare's tail. So mare's tail is sometimes used for this plant on land, but it's incorrect really. It is kind of interchangeably used with horsetail, but the land living version of this is called horsetail. The aquatic one isn't quite as much of a bully as this. This plant here has been known to, in effect, can take over a plot. The good thing about it is it doesn't wind itself around any plants. It just kind of gets in the way. It doesn't look particularly great. And if you get a whole load of these, it can actually almost like block the light from some of the small growing plants and things that you potentially might have. The other thing about this is if you break it, so this is quite a fragile weed. So this particular one I've pulled out by the root, and if you can see, every time you split one of these roots, it actually grows 3 more plants. So we've got 3 new shoots off this one root. Now, this is actually a silicon-based life form. You can see how quickly, how easily it breaks. Supposed to be good for arthritis. You can make a tea out of it, or a bit of a tincture, and it's supposed to be really good because of that silicon. It's supposed to be good for arthritis. I don't know. I've not tried it, so it's not something that I'm particularly interested in keeping around, really. As much as I like weird plants, that's one of the plants I don't like. Right, let's get rid of that. So I'll show you some of these absolutely gorgeous looking plants as we go around. But so this one here, these are the actual vampire chilies, and again, they're doing really, really well. So this is the actual one that's called vampire. You can see the actual leaves are really, really gorgeous on this. We've got that nice kind of purpley black colour, and already they're doing really well in terms of the actual flowers. And then you've got this absolutely wonderful one here. So this is Count Dracula, absolutely laden with potential flowers on this. One of the things I was asked as to how do you get these plants to actually set fruit. So one of the things you can do is get the humidity up inside the polytunnel or wherever you're keeping these. They do like humid conditions. The flowers set a lot easier if the flowers have got that humidity around them. The thing you can also do to help these out is these don't really require insects to pollinate. So what you can do is you can give the plant a bit of a shake. They are self-fertile, so they will basically pollinate their own flowers. So you get these nice little, see if I can get one of the flowers to show you. You get these nice flowers with the nice little centre there, and they are completely and totally self-fertile. Again, this particular group of plants, so this is the chili is part of the solanum family, the nightshades, same as tomatoes, potatoes, and your tomatillos, all of those sort of things. So they're relatively simple to pollinate. So these will basically do their own thing. And again, so this last one here is Nosferatu. Seems to be a bit more of a slender plant. But again, you've got that absolutely gorgeous colour into the leaves and things. Okay, so one of the other issues we have inside this polytunnel is something that I kind of alluded to when I planted them, and that was ants. So everywhere potentially where you've got really fine soil, so if I can get into there, you can see the soil there, hopefully. It's really fine. Now, ants make some fantastically fine tilled soil. The only problem with ants doing that is that they will burrow around the roots of the plant. They will make air pockets, and then they will cause your plant to do this. So this here is basically because there is an ant's nest underneath it, which means that the actual plant itself above is not getting the nutrients that it needs from the soil because there's air pockets around the roots. So it's tried hard. Really, really strong plants that you put in. So things that have been growing in a pot for quite a time before you put them in have got a better chance of survival. If you put plants in pots, ants actually love getting into pots and actually making their nest in there, because usually the compost or the soil is a bit more easy to move, and it's easy for them to make their tunnels and things. But I've always talked about ants as being a problem. People have argued with me left, right and centre about ants are no problem, just leave them alone, they'll be fine. But by my experience, especially in the polytunnels, they really aren't. And it looks like the pennyroyal that I've put in here, which is this nice mint. It's not an edible mint, but it smells kind of very spearminty. It is one of those plants that's supposed to hopefully try and keep the ants away, because it's actually supposed to disrupt their scent trails and things like that. So it stops them from actually doing the things they need to do. But again, I don't think it's made much difference in here, because there's an ant's nest over in that corner. You can already see as well, you got these other plants around it where the leaves have started to curl, and the same here as well. The ground's quite moist. I'll give it another watering today, because one of the ways of actually getting or trying to keep the ants away from your areas is if you keep the soil moist. They don't particularly like moist soil. But I think I might probably end up losing probably all 4 plants in that area. And I've just got to hope that I don't disrupt that area too much. Now, if I was to disrupt that area so the ants move, then they could spread to the adjacent plants around, and I'll end up losing more. So it's not something I really want to do at this point. In the past, I've dug them out and blowtorched them, but I'm just going to basically leave them this year. And then hopefully, if they survive, they survive. If they don't, then I'll have to write it off to the ants. I lost about 6 to 8 plants last year, I think, if not more. I'm probably going to end up doing the same. The space chilies are doing really, really well. Again, they're starting to get these lovely little flowers on them, and you can see again they look quite similar to the aubergines and the tomato flowers. Tomato flowers generally yellow. The chili ones generally are everything from white to that absolutely gorgeous purple I showed you earlier. And the other dark chilies that we've got in here, again, are doing really, really well. That really black stems that we've got to these plants make them look pretty impressive. And again, they've grown quite tall. But again, we've still probably potentially got some issues. So I think in this area here, you can see these 2 plants not doing particularly well. And I think, again, that's possibly going to be an ant issue. Right. Okay, so that's one of the polytunnels sorted in terms of weeding. I'm going to do the other one in a minute. And then I'm going to plant some marigolds. The good thing about marigolds is that you will tend to hopefully try and keep some of the aphids away from the chilies. Aphids will go for anything with a nice tender stem. They really prefer young plants. And the ants, unfortunately, will also farm those aphids. They've even been known to actually take aphids from one plant and move it to another plant, basically because they eat the sap that comes out the back of the aphid. So when you've got an aphid infestation of a plant, that plant will probably be quite sticky. And that's because as the aphids are eating and they're digesting whatever they're digesting, their waste product is almost like a sticky, sugary solution, which is what the ants like. They basically harvest it from the aphids. It's almost like they come along and it's almost like milking a cow. So the aphids will take that particular sugary substance back to their nest, and they will do everything they can to actually make sure that those aphids stay alive, because it's an easy sort of foodstuff for them. It's something they don't have to try too hard in actually continuing to actually keeping their colony alive. If they've got even 5 or 6 plants with an aphid infestation on, it can really, really do the ant colony really, really well. One of the things that we can use to actually kill the ants and to kill the aphids, if you do have an aphid infestation, is ladybirds. I'm very pleased. I've actually just seen evidence of ladybirds in here already. So let me just show you this. Okay, so I think you can probably see that quite well now, hopefully. Now, it's not the ladybird larvae. I'll show you what that looks like on the screen. But I think this is actually the pupa from the ladybird just before it turns into an actual ladybird. So if you've got aphids, one of the best things you can do, if you find ladybirds, let them loose inside wherever you've got that infestation. And they will hopefully help to clear up any issues. The other thing we've got in here, unfortunately, by the looks of this, and you can see damage here. So that damage is caused by slugs. Slugs and snails, they will always try and get in again for the plants that are quite new. The young plants they generally will go to first. I mean, this one down here, probably because it's the first plant in the polytunnel, has taken quite a beating. Sometimes you can leave a sacrificial plant. I don't want this to be a sacrificial plant. I could do with this actually being able to grow. Let's have a look. It's a leisure sweet peppers are absolutely fantastic. They are really thick walled sweet peppers, and they make fantastic jams. So when you're making a chili jam, you want a really nice sweet pepper to go with whatever chilies you're putting in with it, and leisure is one of those. This plant here is absolutely gorgeous as well. So this is the candy cane, variegated chili, again with these absolutely lovely flowers on them. Oh, you can see a nice little spider there. Now this polytunnel is absolutely full of spiders, and I don't mind spiders because again they'll take aphids and all of the other bugs and things that potentially will do some of your plants harm. Right. So that's again a quick update on the at least one of the polytunnels. I'll have another go at the other one. I've got loads of plants in here to actually go outside into the ground. There's still a lot of beans in here. I need to plant the rest of the beans in that area I cleared the other day alongside the runner beans. So I will sort that out shortly as well. And then the tomatoes that I've got actually in the aubergine house at the moment, because the aubergine house will need planting up with the aubergines. Those tomatoes up here will need to come up here while I dig the other bit of ground outside of this particular polytunnel where they're all going to go. So all of my tomatoes this year are going to be outside. So I've not really got any space in here for any tomatoes this year. Anyway, that's all from me today. So we'll see you on the next video. So all the best. Take care. Bye bye.